This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Wendy Griffith. President Donald Trump files a lawsuit in Wisconsin seeking to disqualify more than 221,000 ballots. It's a long-shot attempt to overturn Democrat Joe Biden's win in the battleground state. Trump lost by nearly 21,000 votes. Meanwhile, the eyes of Washington are turning to Georgia, where voters will decide who controls the Senate. The president will campaign there this weekend, and as CBN's Heather Sells reports, Republicans are mixed about how much he might help or hurt Georgia's GOP Senate candidates.
As temperatures dropped in Georgia this week, state politics turned the heat up. The Secretary of State says Georgia will complete the machine recount requested by the president by midnight Wednesday. The original certified result showed Joe Biden winning by less than 13,000 votes.
Once this recount is complete, everyone in Georgia will be able to have even more confidence in the results of our elections. Despite the massive amounts of misinformation that is being spread by dishonest actors.
The recount comes amidst a closer look at vote spikes in Georgia, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul pointed out the new findings. They come from an analysis of New York Times data showing an unusually large number of Biden votes coming in during the same 5-hour window on November 4th. Another driver behind the political battle, the two Georgia races that will determine which party controls the U.S. Senate. Democrats are trying to unseat incumbents as John Ossoff takes on Republican David Perdue and Reverend Raphael Warnock matches up against Kelly Loeffler. But here's the plot twist. Even as Democrats have praised the Republican Secretary of State for pushing back against the president's allegations of fraud, Secretary Raffensperger is now investigating a voter registration group that Warnock had led before leaving in February. Raffensperger says the new Georgia project sent voter registration applications to New York City, a violation of state law. But the president's ongoing charges of voter fraud could potentially work against the GOP. Party leaders worry they could turn moderate Republicans away from the January runoff, as well as Trump supporters who see the system as hopelessly corrupt. Trump will go to the Peach State to campaign for Republican candidates, hoping to head that off. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Thanks, Heather. Patrick Basham with the Democracy Institute joins us now with a closer look at these developments. Patrick, welcome to Newswatch.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
Well, what's your take on Georgia as it relates to the voter fraud investigations there?
Sure. Well, I think there are serious reasons for concern for further investigation in Georgia. As in other states, there is a surprisingly low absentee ballot rejection rate. That doesn't make any sense as the absentee ballots were higher. You'd expect the failure rate, the rejection rate to be high. You have precincts in Georgia where apparently more people voted than there are residents. All kinds of concerns. Ballots that were only filled in for the presidential level question, all for Joe Biden, all of them pristine absentee mail ballots that were never folded or apparently mailed. So lots of questions and lots of a lack of answers to this point.
Mr. Basham, how is all of this and possibly President Trump's legal challenges going to influence the runoff election for the Senate?
Well, it can influence it in one of two ways. Either there'll be a sense of mass resignation amongst Trump supporters who think the system is rigged against them, so why bother turning out in the runoff? Or, and I think this is more likely, a sense among Trump's voters in Georgia that this is their one shot, their one chance to send a message to the governor, the Secretary of State, the lieutenant governor, and to Washington that they are intent on their votes counting. Of course, they'll be very cynical because they, to this point, don't believe the way the election will run in January will be any different than it did on November 3rd.
Senator Rand Paul tweeted, quote, the data dump anomalies in 4 key states. Are there legitimate concerns to what he's talking about?
Oh, absolutely. Statistically, these are borderline impossible, both in terms of the margins for Joe Biden over Donald Trump, and also the volume of ballots that came in at the same time. And this happened, as it were, simultaneously across several states, and all of them critical swing states. You know, when the counting is stopped and poll workers are told to go home for a few hours, and when they come back, they find out that these dumps occurred in their absence and the counting resumed. It doesn't on its own guarantee there was fraud and corruption, but it obviously raises huge flags, huge question marks about the validity of those ballots.
Almost 50% of Americans believe this presidential election, was rigged. Where do we stand as a nation with securing voter integrity?
Oh, I don't think we're standing anywhere. I think we're on our knees. This election was a nationalized version of what we've seen in recent elections in the likes of Philadelphia and Nevada and in California. And it's only coming to the fore. That's perhaps the one positive out of this fiasco. It's coming to the fore that there are serious problems in most parts of the country. And at the very least, we have to hope and pray that the next election and the election after that, we actually get our act together in terms of how we accumulate the ballots and how we count them.
Is there still a path to victory for President Trump at this point?
Yeah, there is. I mean, he has three paths. I mean, there's the legal constitutional path, which means he could end up winning in the Supreme Court. That is certainly possible, given the Republican-appointed majority on the court. It is possible that the swing state legislatures, which are mainly controlled by Republicans, get their spines working, and they decide to that they do conclude that too many of these elections are simply in doubt because of the potential for fraud, and they decide to seek their own slate of electors for Trump. And of course, the third option is that the legislatures simply don't act in time because the clock is ticking, and that actually favors Trump, which would mean in bottom line terms, it goes to the House of Representatives, it goes to Congress, and there the numbers favor Donald Trump. They don't guarantee a victory, but they favor him. So yes, he still has practical, pragmatic reason to continue this fight.
All right. Well, it's going to be a very exciting December to watch for sure. Patrick Basham with the Democracy Institute, thank you so much for your insight. Take care.
Thank you. My pleasure.
The Centers for Disease Control meeting today to recommend who should be the first people to receive a coronavirus vaccine. Both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are expected to be given the go-ahead before Christmas. That means about 25 million Americans will be vaccinated. The rest of the country will have their chance by June at the latest.
This is something that can be trusted and will be safe for them and their families and can save potentially hundreds of thousands of lives.
It's expected healthcare workers and nursing home residents will be the first to receive the vaccine. CBN's medical reporter Lori Johnson joins us with more now. Lori, a lot developing very quickly here, it seems, with these vaccines. Tell us the timeline that we're looking at.
Well, Wendy, as you mentioned, the CDC today prioritizing who gets the vaccine first, and then they'll make their recommendations to the governors who have the final say. The governors are sort of like air traffic controllers. They will direct where the vaccines go, such as which hospitals, nursing homes, pharmacies, and how many doses go there. When the FDA gives the green light, presumably on December 10th for the Pfizer vaccine and around December 17th for the Moderna vaccine, the shots will be transported within 24 hours and given as soon as possible.
Now, I understand both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines require 2 shots. Is that right?
That's correct. So the first dose, then 3 weeks later, a second shot. Immunity is not achieved until 1 week after that second shot. So 1 month after the first one. So the soonest we're looking at is about mid-January. And we're only talking about 25 million people. The vaccine makers say they can produce about 25 million a month, which is why it'll take so many months to vaccinate as many people as want one.
Lori, doesn't one of the vaccines pose a problem because of how cold it has to stay?
Yes, that's the Pfizer vaccine, which must be kept at minus 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is colder than most freezers. That means special freezers had to be built and must accompany the vaccine. So that will most likely be used for large vaccination projects, such as big medical centers. On the other hand, the Moderna vaccine must be kept frozen, but only at minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what most freezers can handle. And once it's taken out of the freezer, it can stay fresh in the refrigerator for up to a month.
Lori, a lot of people wondering, is it safe? Should I take it? I hate to put you on the spot with that question, but do you think it's going to be safe for everyone?
Well, we just heard Dr. Francis Collins say that the vaccine is safe, that we can trust it, and that hundreds of millions of lives will be saved. And I just want to remind our viewers, I've interviewed Dr. Francis Collins before. He's an extremely devout Christian. He loves the Lord with all of his heart, and he is not only an expert in science, but as I said, a very strong Christian.
Wow. Well, that does help. All right. Thank you, Lori, so much. Thank you. Well, turning overseas now, a commander in Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps was reportedly killed in an apparent airstrike along the Iraqi-Syrian border sometime between Saturday and Sunday. Citing Iraqi security sources, a Saudi news agency reported a drone strike killed Muslim Shadan, a senior commander in the Guard. He was in a vehicle carrying weapons across the border. No word yet on who's responsible. The strike comes amid heightened tensions in the Middle East following the assassination of a top Iranian nuclear scientist. Coming up, a trial of faith for one military chaplain as he takes a stand for Christ with a sermon straight from the Bible about a culturally incorrect topic.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
He was passed over twice for promotion and involuntarily discharged. That's what happened to an Air Force chaplain. He lost his job and more than $1 million in pension and health benefits after almost 30 years of service. Eric Phillips reports it all began with a biblically based sermon.
Former Air Force chaplain Kirk Cizik tells me his military career started going downhill after his sermon that included scriptures about sexual immorality. He says never before had he been punished for preaching. Now he's hoping Christians will stand with him.
Men put so much of who they are into what it is that they do, and having that rug pulled out underneath me was very difficult to go through.
Former Air Force chaplain Kurt Cizik is unapologetic about preaching the word. One Sunday in 2013 at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, he says that stance led to trouble.
The message was about sin that we don't think is that bad. If you're having sex with somebody that you're not married to, then you need to stop. I said, you know, sometimes the Christian church has gotten a reputation for being prejudiced. And because we look at one sin, homosexuality, and then we turn a blind eye and don't say anything about heterosexual sin. And that's hypocritical.
What happened next turned into a domino effect that ended with his involuntary discharge.
I found out shortly thereafter that a lesbian trainee had made a complaint about the sermon. I mean, she complained that I had said that all homosexuals were going to burn in hell. I don't know what sermon she listened to, but it wasn't what I preached that day.
2,500 trainees heard that day's sermon, and Cizik says as far as he knows, only one person complained.
We also had an openly lesbian commander working in basic training, and when she heard about the trainees' complaint, she wouldn't let it go. My performance reports were downgraded. My promotion recommendation was downgraded. I got passed over for promotion twice and involuntarily separated from the Air Force in 2016.
That means even with almost 30 years of service, nearly 20 of them active duty, he cannot retire from the Air Force. Cizik says while it's a net loss of more than $1 million in pension and health benefits, he sees a bigger issue.
Even if I did say what she said that I said, it's covered by my First Amendment rights to preach and teach according to my religious beliefs. I mean, either we believe that everybody has First Amendment rights or we don't.
All he wants to do is serve God and serve his country. That's all he wants to do.
Paul Platty is Cizik's attorney.
Air Force regulations specifically allowed him to give that type of sermon. The First Amendment protects his freedom of speech and freedom of religion. So quite frankly, we think it's preposterous what happened to him.
They say the Air Force never put in writing that the sermon caused the poor performance reports, but instead accused Cizik of violating unrelated protocols. He denies that, and after appealing to the highest levels of the Air Force, this is what he received.
Here at the top of the page, it says the reasons for the decision. And then they blank out everything explaining the reasons for his decision. But we know why, because he was disciplined 3 days after he gave the sermon about sexual immorality.
CBN News reached out to the Air Force for comment, and officials sent this statement, which says in part, the applicant, Kirk Cizik, alleges he has been the victim of reprisal. Based on the board's review, they do not conclude the applicant has been the victim of reprisal. The board maintains the applicant has failed to establish that. Cizik reached out to lawmakers and even the White House. The vice president's office referred Cizik's case to the Air Force Board for correction of military records for reconsideration. But officials there refused to reopen his case. Now the Department of Defense Inspector General's office is looking into it. Cizik hopes Christians who learn of this will sound off.
We need some encouragement from fellow believers.
This is a time for conservative Christians to be heard, letting their legislators, letting the White House, letting the Air Force, letting the Secretary of Defense know how they feel. The real intolerance is not speaking the truth. The real intolerance is preventing people from speaking the truth. That's the real intolerance and bigotry that exists in our country today.
Now that it appears change is coming to the White House, Cizik isn't sure a Biden administration would be as sympathetic to his cause. That's why he says time is of essence for Christians to speak out. In Washington, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy?
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain, get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Well, the expression family feud can take on a whole new meaning these days between the pandemic, politics, and cultural shifts in America. There's a lot to divide families. One Family Foundation, Chick-fil-A's WinShape, is offering solutions to keep families united despite their differences. And joining us now are Russ Surratt and Rusty Chadwick. Russ and Rusty, did you guys plan that? Well, welcome to the show. Russ, we'll start with you. What are you seeing different than normal? You know, it's normal for families to have little squabbles here and there, but it's really getting quite nasty these days, isn't it?
Yeah, I think society in general right now is feeling a little nastier than normal, especially this year. And you add in the fact that most people have been separated and maybe haven't seen each other as often. And so then you put everybody together at the holidays, and it's a little bit of a recipe for what could be disaster. I think we would make the case that there's some proactive things you can do to hopefully avoid that.
Yes, and we will get to those for sure. Rusty, the expression agree to disagree, you know, we hear that all the time, but is it actually possible to disagree with a loved one or a friend and still have a good relationship?
Absolutely. I think if our expectation is that we all have to agree on everything to get along, then we're going to have a difficult time. So certainly I think there's a way to disagree in a way that still shows honor, care, and love for each other.
Okay, this question for both of you. What are some practices, Russ, you just mentioned this, that families can create to help each other get along?
Yeah, I think the first one is to realize that, like we already said, conflict's not necessarily bad. We can't assume we're always going to agree on everything. And so I think having that perspective going into a conversation is probably a healthy place to start. But from there, I think the next step is really just to listen. So often we start on way far ends of the spectrum, but to realize that we'll listen, there's probably some common ground that we can find, and that's really where you want to camp out, is on that common ground.
Okay. All right. Rusty, same question for you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we talk about with teams, and a family is certainly a team, is to think about responding versus reacting. When we hear someone say something that we disagree with, or that maybe sparks a fear in us or disagreement, then it's easy to fire back quickly and react with the first thing we feel and say that right away. But if we can take a moment to just breathe, to think through how we want to show up in that moment and respond, that right there can quell, I think, a lot of potential disruptive behavior.
Yeah, and maybe that expression, you know, that our mom always said, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. Maybe just keep it quiet. All right, well, switching gears a little, going up to question 4. Yeah, now that it's something that is still family related, you guys have written a book on teamwork. Tell us about it, Rusty, and then Russ.
Yeah, so this book is called Teamwork. It's really written for the individual. The subtitle is 13 Timeless Principles for Creating Success and Fulfillment as a Team Member. There's a lot of books out there for leaders on leadership, but we really believe that individual team members have a lot to contribute when it comes to creating the team experience that they want. A lot of us have had team experiences that haven't been positive. You can think about the class project in school where someone does all the work and someone does none. Those don't evoke positive memories, but really teams can be a very, very fulfilling experience, and they can be tools to achieving great things. So this book is really a guide, if you will, for individual members to kind of step in and drive the success and fulfillment they want in their teams.
Okay, and Russ, when you guys were writing this book, did you guys get along the entire time?
We actually went back and forth on a lot of different things about what we really wanted to say on a particular topic. And, we talked about this the other day, looking back now, I don't know that I would have wanted to write this kind of a book by myself. By its very nature, it made sense for two of us to do together. And really, it's kind of the summation of our entire organization. And so really, there's lots of other people that spoke into it and added their voice, and we really just were able to kind of pull that together. So it made a ton of sense for us to do it together.
All right, Rusty Chadwick with Chick-fil-A's WinShape Family Foundation, thanks so much for your insight and helping us all get along a little bit better. Thank you. God bless.
Thanks for having us.
We'll be right back.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Five, four, three, two, one. I'm Ephraim Graham. Welcome to Studio 5.
Get on it.
All that's new and now in the world of uplifting entertainment with celebrity interviews.
There's a higher contribution I will make.
Musical performances.
I'll give you my best praise.
Plus movie and TV news.
See it and be uplifted.
On Studio 5. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern at cbn.com/Studio 5.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
Well, we just finished one of the biggest spending times of the year with Black Friday. I know I was out in full force. And then we had Small Business Saturday and Cyber Monday. So today we shift gears to Give Back Tuesday. The effort to have an official day to remind us to give it began back in 2012. The Give Back Tuesday website says it was created with one simple idea, a day that encouraged people to do good. Over the past 7 years, Giving Tuesday has grown into a movement that inspires hundreds of millions of people to give and celebrate generosity. And that is a good thing as we start December. That's it for us. Have a great day. Bye-bye.